Hi everybody, let's take a look at this special piece of narrow gauge rolling stock that was made by DomelessEngine. This is Cora. She is a Railway series exclusive character, and most Thomas the Tank Engine fans, and especially most Thomas Wooden Railway fans, will recognize the three plastic coaches behind this brake van as Ada, Jane, and Mabel, as they were released in the late 90s for the Thomas Wooden Railway range. But unless you are a die-hard fan of the Railway series or know anything about the history of Sodor, you probably don't know who this brake van is. This is Cora. And as you can see, she has a face and she has a personality which kind of warrants her own Thomas Wooden Railway model. If she was just a faceless, no name, no brand type brake van that was just seen in the background in the Railway series or even in the TV series, then I wouldn't have really bothered to have DomelessEngine make this brake van for me. But Cora does have a name, and she was featured in a number of illustrations in the Railway series. So I've been calling Cora a brake van, and I know some people out there will probably get mad at me for saying that, because technically, according to the Thomas the Tank Engine wiki, she is actually a tool van and occasionally a guards van is what the website says. So maybe not necessarily a brake van, but basically she is just a piece of rolling stock that is not meant for passengers, whereas the passengers would ride in Ada, Jane, and Mabel. Cora would bring up the rear of the train, and I believe that's where the guard or the conductor would ride out the journey. But basically, any tools or materials or anything you're going to need for your journey wherever you're going to stick it inside of Cora. In case you run into problems. So, I mean, she's really a jack of all trades when you think about it. I mean, you can stick, tools for clearing the line, or, if there's a tree down, or if the river's overflowing. I mean, I bet she is just packed full of opportunity and tools and any other helpful things that the railway thinks, might come in handy later on. So that is Cora and kind of her brief history. I guess as far as her personality goes, she seems like a pretty nice brake van. I believe it was Peter Sam who kind of has like a special affinity for her. And I knew Cora existed because I grew up with the Railway series books, and there's kind of, not necessarily a famous picture, but there's a very recognizable picture in one of the first Railway series books about the narrow gauge engines, and you actually get to see Ada and Jane and sort of their open wagon slash coach style, which, they're, I guess, very special, and you can obviously tell, that's Ada and Jane, and presumably Mabel's behind them, but you can't really see her. But then on a separate piece of track, there's a brake van with a face, and that happens to be Cora. So I immediately knew that Cora was a character. As the years have gone on, I haven't really forgotten about her, but it is sort of easy to not remember these Railway series exclusive characters when they haven't appeared in the TV series, and I don't believe Cora has ever received a single piece of merchandise. And one thing, I guess a fun little fact that I did not even know about, I knew that Cora was a narrow gauge brake van, but she was actually featured, or she actually came from the Mid-Sodor Railway, which is where Peter Sam and Sir Handel came from as Steward and Falcon. I didn't know that she was rescued from that railway. I just thought, she was just kind of on the railway when they got there. But apparently, that's why Peter Sam, I guess, the two have a little bit of history and they know who each other is and that sort of thing. So anyway, that's a little bit about Cora. Like I said, she hasn't received a single piece of merchandise over the years, but DomelessEngine, before he made this version of Cora, I believe he made one for himself, and that really piqued my interest in this character, because I probably would have never thought about, getting a custom engine of a brake van from the Skarloey Railway that was only featured in the Railway series. She would have never crossed my mind, but he did such a fantastic job with this custom model that I just had to have one in my collection, and I really just want to show off just the awesome detailing here. So as you can tell, Cora is not your regular standard size coach, if that makes sense. She's on a smaller chassis, the wheels are closer together, and if we actually look underneath, you'll see that the base here with the wheels and this block of wood actually comes from the fire truck. And if you know anything about the fire truck doesn't look like this. It looks like this. So I believe what happened, this happened many, many months ago, but I believe what ended up happening is I sent DomelessEngine one of these guys from eBay, and this is the fire truck that I know, for example, I got this with the fire station destination, like the original fire station destination, it comes with it. But as you can see, it's on a smaller chassis that, you know, it's much shorter than Thomas. It's about the same size as Lady or Neil or Logan or one of those guys, like the Holiday Caboose, I think is even a little bit shorter. But this chassis is very important when it comes to making customs because, you know, the wheels are closer together, and Cora wouldn't have looked the same if she was just a repainted version of like an Annie coach stuck on that big chassis. So I believe what DomelessEngine did is he came along and he removed this top section where we have like the actual fire truck part, and then he was left with this block of wood and the wheels on the bottom side. And that's why this Cora model still says fire truck underneath, because that's basically what it was at one point. So at this point, we just have the block of wood and the wheels. We don't have this upper van part area. And this is actually, if you can sort of imagine this, this is actually an old like Annie or Clarabelle coach part that was put on top of the fire truck chassis. And DomelessEngine had to come along and cut it so that it would be a little bit shorter, and so that, you know, it wouldn't extend out over and look really awkward or anything. So hopefully you can kind of you know, those coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, even like the baggage cars, a lot of generic pieces of rolling stock have, you know, this same type of I guess what you would call it, like appearance that makes them really recognizable, you know, with these two, I guess these are like technically screws that go into the wood up top here. But DomelessEngine came along and he cut both sides off basically to just even it up and make it proportionally accurate so that we don't have this huge, large repainted Annie top here, Annie or Clarabelle top, that's way over the wheels and looks really awkward and all that. So that is what Cora was made out of, and then DomelessEngine came along and he repainted the top, and then he came along, and I guess according to the Thomas and Friends wiki, Cora is painted in periwinkle blue, which I would have never have guessed. But anyway, DomelessEngine did a great job at matching the color, and then he came along. I'm guessing this was done with a Sharpie. It might have been done with paint, but I'm guessing just because all of the lines and the doors and the windows are so small in detail that it probably just would have been easier to come along with like a very fine, you know, thin point permanent marker and just come along and add all the detailing. So yes, the lines are uneven. That doesn't bother me though, because the fact that I know that it's like handmade, handcrafted, hand drawn just makes it all the more awesome versus somebody coming along and maybe like printing out a like a sticker decal of the side detailing there and slapping it on. I actually have more appreciation for the handwork, I guess the handiwork is what I'm trying to say, that went into this beautiful Cora custom. And obviously all of these details are really nice. There's a small SR in the corner, which I believe stands for Mid-Sodor Railway. If I get that wrong, everybody in the comments is going to freak out. You know what? I have my phone out here because I don't know all of this information like off the top of my head. Oh, it doesn't say. With the small SR. I'm guessing it stands for Skarloey Railway, actually. I'm guessing that's what it stands for. Mid-Sodor Railway. Skarloey Railway would make more sense because it is actually the Skarloey Railway. And for those who don't know, the narrow gauge railway is the Skarloey Railway. It just goes by two different names. So I am guessing, I'm actually like 99% sure SR stands for Skarloey Railway, not Mid-Sodor Railway. Apologies for that. So then DomelessEngine had to come along. There's this really cool detail right here. Where I guess this would act as like a sliding door, almost like if you can imagine that being sort of like a movable boxcar part from the boxcar that is sold in the ThomasWoodenRailway range, and then maybe sort of on the side here, maybe these move or something like that. Anyway, regardless, all of these details are really, really cool. I especially love the face. The face is so awesome, and DomelessEngine got Cora's expression from that very famous picture from the Railway series. He got it spot on. She's even looking in the same direction. Her eyebrows are like at the same degree and all of that. He did a fantastic job of just nailing that expression. And that's what really sold me on this custom model, is when DomelessEngine made one for himself I was just really taken aback by how good it looked. And I was like, man, that looks like an actual Thomas Wooden Railway product that could have been released back in the late 90s or the early 2000s. So it just completely blew me away. I was like, that is a really good looking custom Thomas Wooden Railway model right there. So I knew I had to have one in my collection. And then DomelessEngine did 100% of the work, and I'm just the lucky guy that gets to show it all off. But he did a great job of just matching the colors. And I guess technically, I mean, I guess Cora can be used on a variety of different trains on the Skarloey Railway. But if you were to pair her up with Ada, Jane, and Mabel in the background there, she would be the last car in line. She would kind of bring up the rear. And I don't know, like, I kind of consider her a brake van. I don't know if she has any braking capabilities, but she's kind of like a maintenance van where not necessarily you throw all the junk into, but like, for example, you know, one of the other big stories that she's featured in the Railway series is the story where Duncan gets stuck in the tunnel. So she's one of the like maintenance vans that is included in the train when Skarloey goes to the tunnel, and you know the workmen are trying to get him out. Or it might have not been the tunnel. It might have been the time that Duncan rock and rolled off the rails. I don't know. Those stories are kind of similar. But anyway, I know the audience will correct me. Regardless, I can't remember off the top of my head if she actually spoke in that sort of introductory, you know, part of that story where Ada, Jane, and Mabel appeared. But anyway, regardless, she is featured in the background in a number of Skarloey Railway series stories, and I believe she technically has a TV series model, but it's never like explicitly said that it's supposed to represent Cora, and it definitely, I'm pretty sure it doesn't have a face. But there are some vans out there that you see in the season 4, especially the season 4 narrow gauge episodes that look like Cora, but they may, you know, they're, I mean, you know, Cora's, you know, not necessarily one in a million, but the fact that she has a phase in his name, Cora, makes her special. I'm guessing there are other brake vans on the Skarloey Railway that are running about that look just like her. So anyway, that's it for this custom Cora model video. Big thanks again to DomelessEngine for just doing a tremendous job and nailing all of the details 100% all the way. You did a fantastic job, Domeless. And I think that's going to wrap up this series of custom Thomas Wooden Railway model videos. I've really appreciated your guys' support. And yeah, I think that's going to wrap up our time here. But guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on a future video.